There was an article in HR Executive, and it was titled, "Where Are Your Employees Working?" And considering that it's almost tax day, and this article talks a little bit about the number of employees who are actually working in a different state or a different country than where their employer thinks they are. And it's very timely because, of course, as we know, Joey, there's a ton of compliance and potential tax issues with having employees working in different states where you're not legally registered to be conducting business. So I thought that this was a very timely article. It was a fairly short read, but I thought that it was worth talking about on our show so that, HR and people leaders are really paying attention to, making sure that they're keeping employees files updated, and that they're, registering in all of the appropriate states where they need to be.
Oh yeah, and I can undoubtedly predict that there have already been employees that have been screaming, frustrated, mad at their business owners or their management because they filed their taxes and they realized that their taxes were wrong. Right? Maybe you lived in New York as an example, and then now you move to Kansas City and you didn't realize that you moved there more than 6 months ago and you have to pay Kansas City taxes and there's no reciprocity. So it's going to be a big, big, big nightmare for all of those companies that had people pick up and move. I'm just amazed at the sheer number of people that work somewhere that their employer has no idea about. That's what's crazy to me.
I would agree with that. But in working with small businesses on a day to day basis, it's actually not that uncommon because when you have some companies who, have made a pretty broad announcement, which is like, you can work from anywhere at any time, I think that's just too broad. It's not setting the parameters around, like, there actually needs to be a process in place to approve where these individuals are going to work from. And so that's the type of work that we do here with our clients is, setting up the process for employees to first request where they'd like to move to, or where they'd like to go for an extended stay. Reviewing, is that a place where the company is already registered to do business? If so, it's a little bit of an easier approval. Whereas if it's, a state or country where they don't currently do business, that makes it a little more challenging because there's costs and time associated with the company registering to do business in a new state. So sometimes that answer is no, and it's hard because, there's usually a pretty big reason on why employees want to go, to a different location.
Yeah, and you mentioned the time cost of setting the employer up, but also the time of evaluating the rules and responsibilities that an employer now has because they have an employee that lives in a certain area. Um, it can be a lot. It can be a lot to handle. We have worked with companies that maybe they didn't they had like one handbook, right, and one set of laws. And one of the things that I'll ask in our initial proposal meetings is like, how many employees do you have and what states are they in? And that helps figure out, okay, how complex should their policies be? Are they aware of this? And if not, what are the things that we need to do on our side to help take care of them, like you mentioned? But I also want to look at the other side of what was covered in this article, where it said that 49% of HR leaders believe their company lost employees due to an inadequate remote work policy, and 41% of workers who switched jobs in 2021 say flexibility to work from home was a reason to change employment. So, even just a practical takeaway from this conversation, in addition to, hey, know where your employees are working and get with us so you can have a plan to protect your business, is also in this crazy talent crunch that we're experiencing, evaluate your remote work policy and determine if it's flexible enough to keep the people that you want on your team. What do you think about that, Summer?
I couldn't say it any better, Joey. I think that flexibility is the key here, especially, when you think about the other episodes where we've talked about how difficult it is to retain and hire new talent. I think that anything companies can do within reason based off of their size, they should definitely be considering. And a couple of things that I wanted to point out while we're still talking about this is some of the general guidance that companies can use to kind of make a decision as to whether they need to be looking at an employee who's working from a different location as an actual move versus a visit, right? So kind of what is the trigger in terms of needing to register and needing to tax them. And so the first disclaimer I'll give is that it can vary by state. So it's very important that you research the specific state's requirements. But generally speaking, anything under 30 days is totally easy to approve. Anything 60 days is likely able to be approved. You still need to check each state, but there is actually some pending legislation in regards to making it, kind of a 30-day cutoff. And so, it's really important that, if you do have these employees who are going into other states, that you're researching exactly what the cutoff is for that specific state, knowing that in advance so that you can make a well-informed decision as to whether, letting an employee go to another state for a period of time is going to trigger some additional actions.
Yeah, the more you know, the better you are. And that's what we help our customers do, is lead from a place of strength and awareness and security, as opposed to, hey, I'm getting all these angry emails from my employees who left the state that they were in, and now we have to figure all of this out. So yeah, that is the article. So thank you to Phil Albinus, who wrote this, in hrexecutive.com. We'll drop a link in the show notes if you want to read more about this survey and his take on it. And as always, you can connect with us if you have questions about how something we talk about on